This is Boxing Talk 8576. I want to talk about boxing and needing a fresh, start. Uh, Boxing needs to refresh itself. You know, we need to have new faces and new matchups. So far boxing has been having the same matchups. Just different fighters jumping in and fighting the same fighters. Are just rotating, and we know the Miguel Cottos, the Manny Pacquiao's, the Klitschko brothers, the Floyd Mayweathers, Sergio Martinez, Juan Manuel Marquez. We know these fighters, and they've been around for a while, carrying the sport, carrying the flag, doing a great job. But we need new faces, new matchups. So far, we've been seeing the same recycled matchups. Shout out to Rollo Jacobs. They brought, that some of that to the forefront, saying that boxing is having the same recycled matches. So boxing needs to refresh itself. So we need to start seeing some of the young fighters like the Danny Garcias, the Gennady Golovkins, even though he's not young, but he's just not coming on the scene. So we need to see him in bigger fights. The Mikey Garcia, Javier Fortuna, Jesse Vargas. Jesse Vargas was with Floyd Mayweather, but I don't think he's with him anymore. But we haven't seen him in any big fights. We've seen him on some pay-per-view undercards. We haven't seen him in any big fights. Keith one-time Thurman making a name for himself. He's coming up. His arrow is pointing up. Leo Santa Cruz, another fighter I like. He's been on some pay-per-views lately. We'd like to see him, in bigger fights. Step up and test himself. Adrian Broner, he's finna fight Marcus Maidana. Gary Russell Jr., I don't know where Gary Russell Jr. is. I don't know. I think he's signed with Golden Boy now. I made a video saying, what's up with Gary Russell Jr. He was on everybody's radar about, a couple years ago. Now he kind of like jumped off the radar. He needs to step up and fight somebody and throw his name out there. Gamboa, I don't know what Gamboa is doing. I know he's with 50 Cent now, but he needs to fight some notable opponents. He's been out for a little while now on people's radar, and he needs to start fighting in bigger fights. Glimmer Rigondeaux, even though he's an older fighter, but he's new to the pro game. He beat Nonito Donaire, which was a great win. A lot of people they don't like the way he fights. He's very technical. He got great defense. He's a counter puncher. I respect the way he fights. You have to respect the way a guy fights when he does it in the fashion that he does it in. Like I respect the way Mayweather fight in the fashion that he fights in. It's just you just want Mayweather to fight certain fighters that he's not fighting. That's the problem. That's neither here or there. But Abner Maris, he had a setback his last game. His last fight. So against Johnny Gonzalez, I know he won an immediate rematch with Johnny Gonzalez. He got knocked out in the first round, I think. Deontay Wilder, I think he can bring back the heavyweight division. He's young. He got, power. In his last fight, he showed that he has a hook in the uppercut. He's still a little, wild when he's going to throw his right hand, because that's his money shot. But he needs to set it up a little bit more, with the jab, which he settled down in that fight and started looking better as the fight went on. And boxing just need to have these new faces, because we seeing these same faces on pay-per-view after pay-per-view, talking about I know Mayweather looking for his next opponent. They talking about Amir Khan. I don't think Amir Khan deserves, the shot. If you want to give it to somebody, give it to Danny Garcia. He deserves a shot. He deserves to fight Mayweather. He has some great wins. He beat fighters that people counted him out against. He'll be at least a fresh face that up there getting a shot, getting some publicity. Tim Desert Storm Bradley, he deserves the the uh, the fight against Mayweather also. You know, Tim Bradley is like 30 years old. He's been around for a while, but he has not had his. You know, he did have a big shot against Manny Pacquiao. A lot of people say he didn't win the fight, so it's kind of like people erase that as his big fight because a lot of people say he didn't win the fight. I also say he didn't win the fight. I gave it to Pacquiao by 3 or 4 rounds, but that's neither here or there. But Bradley deserves the Mayweather fight, I think, and a lot of people think, but you know, they on different promotional teams and different fighting on different stations. See, this is what people are getting tired of. People are getting tired of these roadblocks. You know, it's money to be made, fights to be made. If both of these promotional companies can put the gloves down, you know, no pun intended, and have these fights made, it you know what I'm saying, they'll make a lot of money. It's a plus. It's a make a lot of money for them, and the fans get to see fights that they want to see. You know, we'll get to see a Brandon Rios against, you know, a Keith Thurman, or Brandon Rios against Adrian Broner. You know what I'm saying? We'll be able to see a Gary Russell. Well, I guess Gary Russell. No, yeah, we'll be able to see a Gary Russell against a Mikey Garcia. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. But they need to start putting these younger fighters in the forefront. I know the older fighters still, you know, I know they still out there fighting, and they done a great job. No one is pushing them aside, you know, at the moment, you know, saying y'all need to go right now, but it just need to be it's too slow, you know. They need to accelerate a little bit of having these younger fighters in bigger fights, matchups, you know, even if they matching up against the older fighters. Even if you want to do that, but let's stop talking about Mayweather against Cotto 2. Don't nobody want to see that fight again. It's not going to be Mayweather going to be better in the second fight because he's going to be able to look at the tape and say, okay, I'm going to do this differently, do that differently, and I don't think it's going to change. You know, I don't think, you know, that Miguel Cotto Mayweather fight is going to change. I mean, and then they talking about Floyd Mayweather and Victor Ortiz possibly. I don't want to see that fight. I don't want to see Mayweather against Victor Ortiz again. We already seen the first fight, even though it ended in controversy. Mayweather was dominating the fight. You know, we don't want to see Pacquiao, you know, against Juan Manuel Marquez. We've seen it 4 times. We don't want to. If I see a fight between two older fighters, and I'm talking about, you know, I like to see Manny Pacquiao and Bradley, since it had so much controversy, you know, and I think Bradley said he would like that fight if Manny Pacquiao beat Rios. Devin Alexander is another fighter. I think he deserves a big fight now. He deserves maybe he don't deserve a Mayweather fight yet, but he deserves to fight an upper echelon fighter to get in position to fight Mayweather. Like, Khan should have fought Devin Alexander. That would have been a tremendous fight for boxing. You know, speed versus speed, left-hander versus orthodox. They both got nice feet. They both got fast hands. Khan has a chin problem, and a lot of people, you know, think that Devin Alexander will knock him out. I will favor Khan slightly in that fight. Because, you know, I mean, yes, he has chin problems, but he stood up against Marcus Maidana. Marcus Maidana's a big puncher. He had a nice fight with Lamont Peterson, and Lamont Peterson, he's not a big puncher, but he can punch. You know, he had Amir Khan up against the ropes, landing haymakers. Amir Khan went down against Danny Garcia in the last fighter that he fought. Danny Garcia is a big puncher, though. You know, Danny Garcia can punch. He put Matisse down, so Danny Garcia can punch. Amir Khan was down against Bradis Prescott in his first fight. Bradis Prescott is, you know, he's a puncher, so I don't know. You know, Devin Alexander has his demons. You know, he quit against Tim Bradley, in my opinion. He said he couldn't continue because his eye, because he was seeing double and all this. But he was getting, in my opinion, he was getting dominated in the fight before he, you know what I'm saying, started talking about his eye. And that was just a way out to me, but, you know. But, boxing needs to refresh itself, start putting on and showcasing young talent, young up and coming fighters, and these fighters like, you know, Keith Thurman, them, just let them start, you know, carrying the sport, you know, because it is a young man's game. In the end, boxing is a young man's game. You can't keep on counting on these, you know, older fighters. They got a lot of tread on the tires. They've been through wars, you know, like Cotto, Pacquiao, you know, Sergio Martinez, you know, Juan Manuel Marquez. All these guys been through wars, you know, and you know, it's only so much time before they, you know, start showing their age in the ring. You know, Bernard Hopkins is an exception, it seems like, because you know he called himself the alien and all this stuff. But yeah, Bernard Hopkins is 48 years old and still doing his thing. I know a lot of people don't like the way he fight, like his style. I appreciate that the man is 48 years old and still willing to go in the ring and still, you know, showcase for us. You know, I don't particularly like some of the antics that he do in the ring, you know, because he do some dirty things in the ring. You know, Hopkins is one of the dirtiest fighters in boxing, and he does do some dirty things in the ring. But if you look at the way he fight, these younger fighters can take a lot from the way he fight, his patience, the way he makes a fighter fight his fights, the way he fight in the inside, you know, the way he counter punches, the way he moves in the ring. He doesn't move fast in the ring, but he moves slightly to change the angles so he won't get punched, and he can be in position to punch people. So, you know, younger fighters can look at Hopkins. The closest person I think fight like Hopkins, I think Andre Ward fights like Hopkins. I think he fights like Hopkins, and the way Hopkins fight, he fights in a way that it preserves his body. That's why he's, you know, able to fight in his, you know, at 48, you know, because he had great defense. He tucks his chin in behind his shoulder. He doesn't take a lot of big punches. He doesn't exhaust himself in the ring by throwing a lot of punches. He know when to throw a punch. He know when to move and when not to move. He got like what Hunter said, Khan's trainer and Ward trainer. He has educated feet. That's what he said about Mayweather. He said Mayweather feet. He has educated feet. And that's one thing about Mayweather. He moves very well in the ring. He knows when to move and when not to move. You know, he's just not in there moving just to move away from a guy. He knows when to move. He has tremendous defense also. And that's the key to Bernard Hopkins and Mayweather's defense. The big key is not the shoulder roll. People think the big key is the shoulder roll. No, the big key is for them is not the shoulder roll. The big key is their feet, the footwork, distance, time and distance. They know how to, you know, distance themselves in the ring to set up their punch and be out of the way of getting countered. But anyway, yeah, boxing needs to start bringing these young fighters, you know, to the forefront. I'm not talking about all of them deserve to be on pay-per-view or nothing like that, but they need to start matching these young fighters up with these older fighters and see if the younger fighters can pass the test, or match them up against each other, you know, because it's some it's a lot of young fighters in 140, between 135 to 147. So it's a bunch of them that's trying to reach the top, because you know Mayweather's about to retire. So we want to see who's going to get the baton and who's going to carry the sport. So yeah, that's my take on it. Just boxing just needs to, you know, start having these younger fighters at the forefront. This is Boxing Talk 8576. I'm out.